When Isabella Sterling walked into the courtroom, she thought her husband's billions and her social prestige would save her from a simple traffic violation. She looked at the peeling paint on the walls and the ordinary people in the gallery with pure, unadulterated disgust. She was about to learn that in this room, mahogany desks and designer silk don't carry any weight. Before the clock struck noon, this high society queen would commit the ultimate sin. She would look a man of the people in the eye and call him a nobody. What she didn't realize was that this nobody held the power to dismantle the very empire she used as a shield. Isabella Sterling wasn't just wealthy, she was untouchable. As the wife of real estate tycoon Alistair Sterling, her life was a curated gallery of private jets and gala invitations. To Isabella, laws were merely suggestions for the little people. The incident began on a Tuesday afternoon. Isabella had parked her neon-pink Lamborghini directly in a handicap zone in front of a high-end boutique. When a traffic officer approached, she didn't apologize. She didn't move the car. Instead, she tossed her hot latte at his feet and told him to bill her. She didn't just break a rule. She went out of her way to humiliate a civil servant doing his job. She arrived at the municipal court 2 hours late, flanked by 2 attorneys whose hourly rates exceeded the annual salary of the court clerk. She didn't silence her phone. She didn't take off her sunglasses. She acted as if she were visiting a zoo, looking at the other defendants as if they were a different species. But sitting on the bench was a man who had seen it all, a man who measured a person's worth by their character, not their bank balance. The stage was set for a collision between extreme entitlement and absolute integrity. But as the bailiff called her name, nobody could have predicted just how personal Isabella was about to make it. The bailiff announced, "Case number 4,492, the city versus Isabella Sterling." The charges were clear: illegal parking, resisting a public officer, and littering. Isabella stepped up to the podium, the clicking of her heels echoing through the silent room. She didn't even look at the bench. She was busy checking her reflection in a compact mirror. The judge spoke calmly. "Good morning, Mrs. Sterling. I see we have a series of citations here. The officer notes that when asked to move your vehicle from a space reserved for the disabled, you were less than cooperative." Isabella sighed loudly, snapping her mirror shut. "Your Honor, if we could speed this up. I have a charity luncheon at 1. My lawyers have already prepared a check for whatever pittance this court requires. Can we just settle the bill and go?" The judge leaned forward, his voice dropping an octave. "In this courtroom, Mrs. Sterling, we don't settle bills. We adjudicate justice. There is an allegation here that you threw a beverage at a city employee. Is that true?" Isabella laughed, a sharp, cold sound. He was hovering. It was an involuntary reaction to being harassed. "Do you have any idea who my husband is? Do you have any idea how much tax revenue our companies bring to this city?" The room went silent. It was the classic line of the entitled. But the judge didn't flinch. He simply adjusted his glasses and looked at the officer standing at the back of the room. "I know who the officer is," the judge replied. "He's a veteran who has served this city for 20 years. He was wounded in the line of duty 3 years ago, which, ironically, is why he has a slight limp. The same limp you mocked while you were throwing your coffee. I don't particularly care who your husband is. I care about your conduct." Isabella's face twisted. This wasn't going according to her script. She was used to people bowing. "That's the problem with places like this," she spat. You sit up there in your cheap polyester robe, acting like you're king of a kingdom that doesn't matter. You're a nobody, presiding over a room of nobodies. This entire building is a relic, and you're just a fossil. The gallery gasped. The lawyers tried to pull her back, whispering frantically, but the Sterling arrogance was in full bloom. Isabella felt she was winning. She felt she was finally putting this small-town judge in his place. The judge remained eerily still. A nobody? That's an interesting perspective. You believe that because you have a high net worth, the rules of human decency no longer apply? I believe, Isabella said, leaning over the podium, that money buys time, and you are wasting mine. But what happened next would change everything. The judge didn't erupt in anger. He did something much more calculated. He began to look through a blue folder, not the traffic file, but a secondary document delivered to him just minutes before by the district attorney's liaison. He flipped through the pages slowly, the silence in the courtroom becoming heavy and suffocating. Mrs. Sterling, you mentioned your husband's empire. The Sterling Group, correct? The ones currently bidding on the city's multi-billion-dollar waterfront redevelopment project? Isabella smirked, thinking she had finally reached him. Exactly. So you see why your little finds are a waste of my time. My husband practically owns the dirt this building sits on. If you're smart, you'll dismiss this, and we can all move on. Well, there's a clause in those city contracts, Mrs. Sterling, the judge said, his voice as sharp as a razor. Section 12B, the moral character and public conduct clause. It states that any primary stakeholder or their immediate family involved in public misconduct or displays of criminal contempt can trigger a good faith review of the entire contract. It's a clause designed to ensure the city doesn't do business with people who hold the public in contempt. The smirk on Isabella's face began to flicker. Her lead attorney turned a ghostly shade of white, his hands trembling as he reached for his briefcase. He knew what was coming. He tried to interrupt. Your Honor, my client is speaking out of frustration. Your client is speaking from the heart, the judge cut him off. And I am listening. The judge stood up. He wasn't looking at a traffic violator anymore. He was looking at a liability. He looked past Isabella, straight into the camera recording the proceedings for the public record. Mrs. Sterling, you called me a nobody. And you're right. To the high society circles you run in, I am a nobody. I'm just a man who spends his days listening to the struggles of people who actually work for a living. I listen to the single mother who couldn't pay her meter because she had to choose between a ticket and milk. I listen to the veteran who just wants to be treated with dignity. But as a nobody, I have a very specific duty to this city. I am the gatekeeper of its conscience. Isabella's voice was trembling now. What are you doing? This is about a parking ticket. No, the judge thundered. This is about the $400 million contract your husband is about to lose. I am finding you guilty on all counts. I am imposing the maximum fine and 30 days of community service, specifically cleaning the very streets you think are beneath you. But more importantly, I am formally referring this transcript, the officer's body cam footage, and the video of your assault to the City Oversight Committee and the Board of Ethics. The lead lawyer jumped to the mic, his voice cracking. Your Honor, please. That's a private business matter. You'll ruin the deal. It was a private matter, the judge replied, until Mrs. Sterling brought her husband's empire into my courtroom as a weapon of intimidation. You wanted to use your status to bypass the law? Fine. We will use the law to examine your status. Because of your nobody judge, the city will now review whether a company represented by someone with such contempt for the public is fit to manage public land. Your empire, Mrs. Sterling, is built on the grace of the people you just insulted. And today, that grace has run out. He hammered the gavel so hard the sound echoed like a gunshot through the halls of the building. Next case! The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within 48 hours, the video of Isabella Sterling calling a beloved judge a nobody went viral. It wasn't just a local story. It became a national symbol of the Eat the Rich movement. The public outcry was deafening. Protesters gathered outside the Sterling Group's headquarters. The city council, fearing the political fallout of being associated with the Sterlings, held an emergency session and officially pulled the waterfront contract, citing the moral character clause. The loss was catastrophic. It wasn't just the $400 million in projected revenue. It was the loss of trust from investors. The company's stock plummeted 20% in a single week. Alistair Sterling, seeing his life's work dissolving because of his wife's ego, filed for divorce 3 weeks later. His legal team used the courtroom footage to argue that her willful and malicious conduct had depleted the marital estate, significantly reducing her divorce settlement. Isabella Sterling walked into that courtroom a queen and walked out a cautionary tale. She moved from a penthouse to a modest apartment, her friends having vanished as soon as the gala invitations stopped arriving. She was seen months later, wearing an orange vest, picking up trash in the very park she used to drive past in her Lamborghini. Did the judge go too far by affecting her husband's business? Or was it the only way to teach someone that entitled a lesson? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more stories of justice being served, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Would you like me to research more cases of instant justice for the next video?